Welcome to Sfat Israel. Welcome to Torah for the Nations. This is Pesach Sherbow from Torah for the Nations, and we really appreciate you being with us. And wow, everybody's showing up. It is, hello everybody. Today is, let's see, 28th of May on my side of the ocean. 3 o'clock in the morning in Sfat Israel. And we're so glad to have you with us. And Terry's here, my co-host. Thank you, Terry. And of course, Dan, as always, has got us going out over the internet. And Scotty, Thomas, Paul, Devorah. That's Tony again. Okay. Angela and Mrs. Helton, good to see you. And it's really, really nice to be together. And, you know, even though these Zoom rooms are really great, wouldn't it be nice if we were sitting in the same room, you know, and we could really feel the energy from each other, really feel it. And when you get used to that, feeling the energy from other people, when you can't do it, you miss it. There's a separation that happens. You feel the difference. When we couldn't go to prayers here inside the synagogue, inside the Bet Knesset, we say in Hebrew. And Bet Knesset, by the way, just means a house of gathering. When we Bet is house and Knesset is a meeting or a, you know, whatever conference. When you're not in there, it's a little bit discouraging, even though you're praying on your own and you have the intent and you want everything to be good. But guess what happens? You don't have the full energy there. There's a separation that you feel, and you actually feel the separation from the group. Well, guess what? This is a type of fear you're supposed to have with God. Fear of separation. The sages call this a fear eliyah, a higher fear. There's two types of fear. There's a bottom or fear tata, the bottom fear that it comes from your heart. You're afraid of something. You're afraid of punishment. You're afraid of getting hurt. You're afraid of somebody jumping out of the dark at you. That's the bottom fear, and it comes directly from your heart. But if you have the fear of being separated from somebody, that's a much higher level of fear. And I gave the example last week of a young child going to school for the first day, where everything's beautiful and fine and having a ball. And then all of a sudden they realize their parents are leaving. Oh my goodness, no, no, no. They're afraid of that separation from their parents. This is the highest kind of fear you can have for God, the fear of separation. Hello, Martha. Hello, Amuela. Good to see you. And it's something you have to work on, actually. It has to come not only from your heart, but it has to come from your mind to your heart. So you feel it here in your heart. And I was talking about when you pray by yourself in your home, when you're used to praying with the 10 or with more, you feel a difference. There's a definite, and the first time you go back into the Bet Knesset, into the house of meeting, and you all pray together and you hear everybody else's voices praying at the same time you are, you just feel wonderful. It's an absolutely wonderful feeling, and it fills you up. All these other people fill you up and make your prayers more powerful. And when you realize that when you are in connection with God, when you do your prayers, when you pray to him, when you connect with him, when you first wake up in the morning, you say, Modeh Ani. And if you have the Brit Olam prayer book, there's a series of prayers they tell you to go through in the morning. It's only for one reason, to connect you back to a strong connection with God. So when you are ready to go out to the world, when you're ready to go to your meeting, when you're ready to take the kids to school, when you're ready to do whatever, you've got that connection with God, and what happens, you can feel it in you. It makes you more vibrant. It makes you more excited about the things you're going to do. And you realize that whatever it is you're going to do, you're not doing them alone. You have an awesome power behind you. Now, this fear turns to awesome, fear and awe. This fear of this higher fear of separation turns into a feeling of awe that, wow, when I'm with him, I can do anything. On my own, I really can't do anything. Oh, I can certainly try, and I can tell everybody, look what I did, but you can't do it without that connection to him. You can't get, okay, I'm going to back up a minute, and I don't want anybody to be offended that hears this of anything I'm saying. But we can act like animals, or we can act like human beings, one or the other. Now, when we act with our hearts, and our fear comes from our hearts, we're acting like animals, pure and simple. We're not allowing that God connection to control us. We're allowing our heart connection to control us. Many people go through their whole lives thinking that, oh, and I'm praying to God and glory, hallelujah. But their fear, why do they do it? It's a fear of punishment. I'm going to go to hell, you know. God's going to make me sick. That is an animal fear. Fear of punishment is an animal fear. And it keeps you on the ground. If you notice, and just as an example, if you see somebody out walking their dog, and the dog's tail is up in the air, you know that's a happy dog. You know that that dog is treated properly, that its owner takes care of it, and it enjoys going out for a walk with its owner. But if you see a dog walking with his tail between his legs, that's an abused dog. Unless, of course, that breed only has its tail between its legs. But when you see a dog with its tail between its legs, you will find out that that owner, it's so afraid of being punished that it walks around in fear of punishment all the time. And when the owner calls it back, it'll come crouching kind of back and crawling back. It won't come proudly happy with a smile on his face running back. These are, even the dog to its owner has the upper fear of the owner. It's called the fear that turns it into a love, into an awe of being with the owner. You know, we see a lot of memes today during Corona. The cat's trying to get the people out of the house. Why are you here? Get away. And the dogs are just in heaven because everybody's home all day long and they don't have to miss anybody during the day. Well, you know what? When a human being feels that kind of thing for another human being, we call it love, true love. When your husband or wife goes out the door for the day and you know, wow, gee, I wish I didn't have to go. I'd love to spend the day with them. Or when the kids go out, there's this detachment feeling. The fear of being separated. But this is what we're supposed to feel with God at all times. You know, sometimes I don't care how much love and awe you have of God, you're going to do something that says, oh my goodness, I disconnected. I did what my heart told me to do. I got angry. I said a bad word at somebody. I made somebody feel bad. You disconnected yourself for that moment from God. And then you think, oh, do you think, oh, he's going to punish me? Or do you think, oh, I got to get reconnected? How do you get reconnected? You correct what you did. You don't correct it because of fear of punishment. Because you know what? There is no punishment if you reconnect with God immediately. That's called repentance. And it's okay. It happens to everybody. It's nothing to get upset about. I've seen people that they're so down on themselves and so afraid of punishment that every time they come in to pray, and this wasn't in a Jewish Bet Knesset, just so you know, they throw themselves on the floor and pray and wave their hands in the air and do all kinds of stuff. And forgive me. I've been so bad. Forgive me. Like, I don't want to go to hell. That is an animal fear. It's a basic fear. Everything created that breathes has that kind of fear, except maybe a whale. But when you're in that kind of fear, you're disconnected from God. There's no, you think there is sometimes, but there is no connection. The fear of God is not fear of punishment or fear of panic. It's fear of being separated from him. And when you fear being separated from God or people, that's the highest form of fear you can possibly have. And that same fear can turn into awe, especially of God. You realize how much he loves you and how much he cares about you. He realizes what's going on. And you realize what's going on. So you're reattached. You're after that moment that you became detached, you reattach immediately. It's like you tripped and fell down and skinned your knee, hurt yourself. And the moment that you skin your knee, where's your focus? On your knee, nowhere else. But kids know if they look up and see mommy or daddy, right away they're going to feel better. There's a little video that goes around every once in a while where a little girl comes up to a little boy and she's crying and he asks her what's the matter, and she points to her knee, and he gets down on his knees and he kisses her knee, and right away a big smile comes on her face. He kisses her boo-boo and a big smile comes on her face. That's the reconnection. That's the coming together again. And if you've ever had an argument with somebody or someone that you really, really don't want to have, you want to be connected to, if something happens and you feel bad while you're disconnected, but when you're reconnected, how good does it feel? And then you wonder, why did I disconnect in the first place? What happened to me? Why did I do this? It's not a question who's right or who's wrong, because that's not the point here. The fear of God is what we call fear Eliyah, or the higher type of fear. The fear of being separated from him. And I pray to God that it will be his will that none of you will ever feel that separation from him. But if you do something you're not supposed to do, you should feel it. You should feel, man, I was separated. I can't be separated. And go back and reconnect. He's not going to stay separated from you, but you put a little wall up between him and you. So when something happens, you have to repair the breach, not him. You got to step into the breach and repair it. You have to say, okay, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, I got to be better than that. And then what I do is I turn to him and I say, man, I'm sorry. I did it again, but I'm going to try not to do it next time. And I apologize to whoever I've injured with my mouth or with my, a look or with anything else. And put a smile on my face and try to, sometimes when you hurt somebody, they're not so quick to want to forgive you. Now, don't get upset at them for that, because that is, they're operating on the bottom side. They're operating on the I got to say it, the animal side, the ego side, the, oh, you hurt me side. And some people go into victim mode over it. Well, it's just, you can't teach somebody not to do that. It's when someone goes into a victim mode, it kind of shows a lack of respect for themselves. And it's a shame. You can't, but that's a whole different subject. So let's go back to fear and awe of God. I always try to do that. I try with all my heart, but I fail sometimes. Sometimes. I'm not going to say a lot of times, but I fail sometimes. But we all do. So don't be hard on yourself. We're human beings. This is who we are. This is how he created us. And he created us with the choice to do this way or do that way. You know, when God called Israel together at Mount Sinai and said, Moses, bring Israel before me as a singular unit, he knew there were like 3 million people out there, but there were 3 million individuals. He wants us to be united, but he doesn't want us to be conformed one to the other, is the only way I can put it, like in a cult. We're one unit, but each single one of us is an individual in front of God. And we're reading more also in this week's Torah portion. It talks about how God took the Levites, he divided them up among families, and he told Moses, give Merari this to do, and give the others this to do, and give the others this to do. Each man in each group got their job to do for God. Their individual job, and they did it. Well, it's the same with us. We're all a part of Israel. We're all there, and we're all the same, but we're individuals. And we have to do the things that God wants us to do for him, and the reason that each one of us was born on this earth. Everybody you're looking at on the screen here, everybody listening, each person has a specific reason that God put you on this earth. And you better believe there's one reason that's the same with all of us, that he wanted us to be here. He simply wanted us to be here to do something for him. It's up to us to realize that and then go forward trying to do what he wants. Sometimes we don't know. You know, sometimes people are born to help one person sometime in their life, or save their life one time in their life, or keep them out of danger one time in their life, or feed them one time in their life. We don't know, but that's how particular God is. Maybe there's a family who wants you to help one time. That's it, good. You did your thing, but I still want to be connected with you. We're a team. Just as Israel and God is a team, just like the earth and God is a team, just like the universe and God is a team, we are a team together with him, and he's a team with you. It comes all the way down to the individual basis. Some people forget, in more than one country around the world, when you have a leader, you're supposed to be a team with your leader. He's the one that's been selected to lead your country. You chose him. We chose him. And we, even though we were disunited in getting him chosen, once he's chosen, we're supposed to come back together as a team again. If we don't, hate starts and dismemberment. The whole is pulled apart into factions, where this one doesn't talk to this and the other one doesn't talk to the other one. Believe me, it happens in other countries aside from the one we're seeing a lot of it where you guys live. It happens in other countries too. Why does that happen? Because the people go down to the bottom level, the animal level. They may say they're doing it for the good of everybody, but they're not. They're doing it for their own good. Everything they do is for their own good. And they don't want to become part of the unit anymore. That's why religions denominate, and organizations split over different people's opinion. It's just unbelievable. But it's all for only one reason. There's no God connection. They may think there is, but they don't have that fear and awe of God, of doing things according to the way he wants it done. Even among the Israelites, the Jews, there are some differences of opinion. But we all stay connected to God through the prayer 3 times a day. And it doesn't make any difference who another Jew is. when we know that, find out they're Jewish, we're supposed to help them in some way. If you guys feel like it during a week or something, Google Operation Solomon, Google Operation Moses, which was before that. Or on Netflix right now, there's a thing called Red Sea Diving Resort, which is a true story, of course, dramatized a little bit, like all movies do, about an operation that Israel ran in Sudan in a diving resort to smuggle hundreds of people, thousands of people out of Ethiopia and Sudan that were Jewish, that were just realized. I mean, they knew they were Jewish, but Israel didn't know they were Jewish until the 1980s or 70s. And once we found out they were Jewish, we knew they had to come out of those countries. It's an amazing story. I love it. By the way, Israel still holds, I think, the record of how many air passengers flew on one plane on a trip. I think it's 1,080. They actually dumped the seats out of the airplane to get all these people in on the last trip in and out of Sudan. Amazing. And I think it's in Guinness Book of World Records. Somebody spilled the beans to Guinness Book of World Records, I guess. And they had some pictures to show it, prove it. When you come together like that, you know why? It's the fear of being separated from your God, not from being separated from people. You know that God put us together. Scotty, am I puffing in my mic? I didn't hear you.
Just a little bit, but you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. I got to get me a sponge on you. I just set up this mic and again that I used to use for broadcasting. And I can't find the sponge that goes on the top. So thank you, Dennis. Or do you have something you want to say, Dennis, or are you just saying it's okay? Anyway, going back to awe and fear of God. Sometimes I get a little sidetracked. I'm sorry. Remember that, always remember, when you say you fear God, which fear is it? Ask yourself, am I fearing because I'm afraid of being punished? He's gonna send a plague on me. He's gonna give me a tzara. You know, Miriam got tzara when she did lashon hara with her brother. Remember, the whole camp had to wait 7 days for her to leave the camp and recover and come back. Are we afraid of that? Or are we more afraid of leaving the camp, being separated from God? You see, the punishment that God gave for the bad tongue, for using your mouth in an improper way and hurting people was, okay, you're going to be that way? You're separated from us. Out. Come back in a week and talk to the high priest again. And if the high priest says your attitude hasn't changed, he's okay, back out again. It was he was separating them from him. Today we don't have that. Today we don't have God saying, okay, go out of the camp. Here, and he puts which is mistranslated as leprosy, by the way. It's not leprosy, it's sa'ara. And sa'ara actually comes from the word sar, which means sorrow or grief. And it turned the skin white. And God left it there until you yourself fixed yourself. You had to go in and work on your heart and work on your connection with him. And as you did, it would start to go away. And it was only on the skin, the outside of the skin. It wasn't something that went through the whole body. It was an outward sign that you'd been separated from God. And that doesn't exist anymore. We're supposed to figure that out. We're supposed to understand when we're connected and when we're not connected to God. And if you have the fear of being separated from him, then you don't have to worry about it. People used to tell me, I'm so afraid I'm going to make a mistake. I'm so afraid I'm going to sin. I'm so afraid I might do this or I might do the other thing. I said, good. If you're afraid of doing it, then you're not going to do it. You're going to be okay. But if you do it, turn around to God and say, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best to get rid of that habit or that whatever it is and go forward. What is the love of God? Continually walking with him. That's the awe of God. You're awed by him. You say, what a great and wonderful God he is. What a great and wonderful father he is. Most kids are in awe of their parents up until about 4 years old or 5 years old, and then it starts to go away. One of the things I used to do with my kids, they'd go up the stairs on the house, and they'd hop over the guardrail and just fly down into my arms. And I'd say to them, come on, I got you. That is awe and fear. In other words, there's no fear there that I'm going to drop them. They're totally confident. And they love the experience. But all of a sudden, one day you say, come on, jump, I got you. And they go, what if you don't? So now the fear has gone down a level to, wait a minute, I might hurt myself. I might do this. I might do that. If you've ever been to a group meeting where they try to teach everybody teamwork, one of the exercises, and some of them, is you stand up on a chair or you stand up on a table, you look straight ahead and you fall backwards. Boy, is that a fear to do that. A fear of getting hurt. But you have to go higher than that. You have to know, yes, something could happen, but I know that the people behind me are going to catch me. Well, it's hard to have that kind of knowledge and understanding with people. It's a lot easier to have it with God. So much easier. And you just have to work on it within yourself. Now, if you don't have the Brit Olam prayer book, I suggest you order one. It's good. It should become a part of your daily life. The little rituals that you go through in the morning and the blessings that you say, there you go, Scott. The blessings that you say in the morning, well, you have to get up 15 or 20 minutes earlier. All right. Everybody's holding their book up. There we go. What it does, if you concentrate and don't think it's a bother, if you concentrate on your prayers and the words in the prayer, and you do it with what we call kavanah, or intention, you do that reconnection, the modeh ani, the morning blessings, where you're focused on what God does for you every day when you get up. And, a lot of people, and we'll talk, maybe next week we'll get into it, we'll go through the morning blessings. You're supposed to relate it to you getting out of bed that morning. And we'll talk about that. And then the other prayers that you say all have something to lift you up in the morning, get you going. Man, I get it. That alarm clock goes off at 5:30 in the morning, and I say, got to get up and go to prayer. And I force myself out of bed, and I go put the coffee on. And while the water's boiling, I do my hand washing, and I do what's called the morning blessings in the prayer book. And by the time I'm finished with it, I got a smile on my face because I realize here's another day God's doing these things for me, and he's lifting me up. And so I make the connection with him again each day. This is a fearing of God in the proper way, fear of going through a day not being connected to him. Not that he's going to punish you for something, not that he's going to be angry with you. It's the fear that I'm not going to be connected with him today. But who's going to keep the connection away? He's not. Only I can do that. Only you can keep the net connection away by keeping it out of here. So when you get up in the morning, or you have to go meet somebody, go to a meeting, go to a job interview. You have to talk to somebody if you're a boss at work and you have to correct them about something. If you do it with up here, with that fear of separation from God, you're going to get everything done is in the very best way you can do it. You know, it says we're supposed to reprove people. Yeah, well, and then it says something very interesting. If you go to reprove someone and they don't accept it or don't hear it, it's not their fault, it's your fault. Because you didn't go to them in the proper way. Now, what does that mean? It means that if it's not coming from down in your heart for your love for your fellow human being, they're going to know it. They're going to feel it. So you have presented it improperly. You have done the bad job, not them. Isn't that weird? God says to reprove people, but when you don't get it done right, you're the one at fault, not them. And we walk away saying, boy, that person just sure doesn't want to hear. Boy, they got a hard head. That's what happens, right? Well, guess what? It's not so. First of all, you can't correct someone unless they're a student, unless you go to them as a friend, unless they feel that you're a friend. Then from your heart, you can speak to their heart. Now, I'm talking about the higher level. I'm not talking about the lower animal level. When you can do that, and it's, boy, is it hard to do. I've sometimes gone a few days and tried to think how to approach somebody. I go over all the different scenarios in my mind, and I try the best. And when I go to talk to them, I smile on my face, and I show my friendship for them. And then you start to talk, and then, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Huh? I don't have to do that. I made a mistake, not them. And this is what our sages teach us. We constantly have to be on that level of approaching them with love. And I don't mean the sugary, spicy love to get them to, I'm talking about the true from the heart type feeling. So it's a, there's a certain group of people that put on this other kind of love, but I've always been able to see it, like this, the false smile and the sugary sweetness and whatever they do, and you almost hear it in their voice. The voice kind of drips with the sweetness of it, kind of like they're dipping in honey before the words come out or something, and it's oversweet and it's overdone. That's not from love. That's from, I'm going to change you and make you a better person type thing. Raise yourself up to the higher level. There's a concept, perhaps the Lord calls who he calls. The Lord has called every single one of us. Nobody's left out. Nobody's left out. That's why we're here walking this earth. That's why we're breathing air. Because he called us. Because our being born is our call up. And I've said a lot, there's your mother, your father, and God involved in your birth. Because if God didn't want you born, you ain't going to be here. He's the creator. Your dad's the seed giver, and your mother is the grower of life. But none of it works if God doesn't want it. So every single human being born, and I don't care what the circumstances are, how your mom and dad got together, you were born for a reason. I've had to counsel people who were born of mothers who were raped. It's a sad, sad statement. It's a terrible thing for a child to know they were born because of a rape. But what nobody tells them is no child had to be born from that. God decided, not the people. God wanted you here for a reason. In his love, he brought you into this world. So maybe the mother and father, biological mother and father, had other reasons on their mind. A lot of them do. But God's always involved, and you don't have to be born. He doesn't have to allow that thing to happen in the womb. It's his choice, and that's his choice, not our choice. When you think, go back and look at Isaac and Rebecca, right? Am I remembering right? How many years before they had kids? And how did they end up having a kid? They went to opposite sides of the room and prayed. Opposite sides of the tent and prayed to God. One this prayer and one that prayer. Think about Hannah, who prayed at the temple in Shiloh. And almost all Hebrew prayers are now, her prayer is a guideline for how Israel prays. Amazing thing. But so God wanted this to happen this way. He wanted her to dedicate a child to him. He wanted Samuel to be born. And that's why Hannah had to wait a little bit. The twins had to be born back in the day. That's why I had to wait a little bit. Isaac and Jacob. Everything had to, God just did everything his way, and he's still doing it his way. You have to understand that. You have to know that you don't want to be separated from him. You want to feel close to him all the time. You want to feel that closeness. Behind me, I don't know if I said it once we came on the air, but behind me is a look from where Sharon and I went picnicking today. I really rough it. I take my beach chairs and I put them out and put up a little table, and put the food on the table. And we're looking out across the Kinneret from the other side. In other words, what's behind us there is not the Golan Heights. That's the mountains of Israel. And over behind those bushes on the other side is Tiberia. We were on the agricultural side of the Kinneret, not on the industrial side or the urban side of the Sea of Galilee. And wherever you see those trees, that's where the water level had receded all the way back in the back there until this year when God filled it up. When I look at these things, and I go down to the Sea of Galilee and I see how it's full, and the fish swimming right up to the shore, and the birds jumping over the side, grabbing at the fish. I'm just in awe of God. It's a wonderment of what he's done today. And I try to keep it focused on every day and keep focused in the moment. Not what happened last week and last year and the bad decisions I made, but what I'm doing right now to stay connected with God. I can't say, oh boy, I came back to being a Haredi Jew and I'm okay now. I've repented for all my sins. Can't do that. I have to be where I am every single day. I was in a church meeting years and years and years ago. And they use the phrase born again. Well, I said something and the pastor got angry with me. He stopped talking to me, wouldn't even sit with me to have lunch at the table where I was invited. And he wouldn't say goodbye to me when I left. I said, yeah, I'm born again. Every single morning when I wake up, I choose again to reconnect with God. So I am born again each and every day. Now, he was asleep most of the time. I saw him sitting over there going, but What do you mean born every day? You only have to be born again one time and all this kind of stuff. He didn't understand the connection that you make every single day with God. And that's why the prayers are important. We are reborn every day. We have a chance to do something new and beautiful every day. And when we do that, the past is forgotten. We're living in the moment. We're living right here, right now, in the truth of things. And I don't have to fear that, God's going to beat me up. He's going to make me sick. He's going to do this to me. He's going to do that to me. He's going to punish my kids, which he never does, by the way. God never punishes your kids for what you do. You're the one that pays. And it ain't going to hell is what the payment is. So don't even think about that. But if you do things because it's a fear of punishment, you're just using your little animal fear that's in you. Oh, don't hit me. Don't hit me. Okay, I won't do it again. How silly. You wouldn't even be on this earth if it wasn't for his love for you. And because he loves you, he doesn't punish that way. He doesn't do it. That's a whole other study of how God deals with people. But we don't have to worry about it. If we're living in the moment, we don't even have to worry about that stuff. Oh, I woke up this morning. Oh, yes, I'm a little old. It's a little hard getting out of bed in the morning. But once I get going, I get my coffee going, I'm doing okay. And okay, God, this is the moment right now. What are we going to do today? What can I do for you today, God? Now, I know that I have a big, long list of things to do today. I have this meeting and that meeting and this teaching and that teaching. I have to prepare for another teaching. And okay, but I still have time to do for you today too. And I'm doing all these other things, by the way, for you too. So let's make sure I keep you connected into it. Not me in it, but you. And it's like, wow. You know, the other day I had a lot of fun. Our time, Tuesday afternoon. Rabbi Sherbow and the World Noahide Center is running a course for Israelis to see how they would like to help get done what needs to be done. And I was asked to do half an hour, and it was essentially, how do I connect with people? How do I go out and look for the people I'm going to talk to? And I do, believe me. And some of you actually know that because I actually contacted you. You didn't know who I was in a million years, but I contacted you because things I saw you write or do or heard about you somewhere. Kind of like Moses, no, not Moses, Abraham did. Come on with me a little bit. And now and I knew I didn't have to worry about whether you were connected to God or not. I knew you were just seeking the truth. Shira's going to do on Saturday night, your time, whatever title she puts on it, it's about the red pill, blue pill, and where we all live. And it's essentially the same. You want to be connected to God, or you want to be connected to this social network matrix that allows you to do whatever you want and be whatever you want. And if you want to be a horse, call yourself a horse. You know, it's so silly. Someone that believes in God would never do that. They're satisfied with the way God made them. And it took me a lot of years to be satisfied with the way God made me, believe me. But you got to be satisfied with who you are, the way God made you, but not satisfied with where you're at the moment in your connection with God. You always have to be working on it. You always have to be going forward. You always have to, yes, God, I just want that little bit more closeness to you and a little bit more closeness. Yeah. Hallelujah. Yeah. Good, Devorah. Very good. My eyes don't hit the chat room very much, so if I see something, it's by luck. I keep focused straight ahead on the camera and you guys. Anybody have any questions or comments up to this point? Anybody have anything they want to throw into the mix here? Terry, you got anything? Scotty?
I have a question that came in. I don't know if you want to cover it or not. Yeah.
Go ahead, ask the question.
Um, I've often thought of this too, but somebody texted in and said that they have some people in their family that they are afraid of. If it was not for the fear of being thrown into hell, they would not live somewhat of a, I don't want to use the word pure life, but if it wasn't for that threat, they wouldn't live right. Did I get?
Well, I need a clarification here. The people in the family or the person asking the question?
People in their family? They've witnessed to them and talked to them about this new walk, that we all do.
Mm-hmm.
But they only took it so far because they're afraid if it were not for that fear of hell, they would not live right. Did I?
Yeah, okay. Now, yeah. I've seen this before. I've seen a lot of it, and not a little bit of it. If that's the reason somebody's living, they're not really living. They're just passing through. They're already dead. They just don't know it. They might as well lay down in the grave. The whole purpose of life is to connect with God. The whole reason God wants you to live is to connect with Him. I'm going to say something that'll get me a lot of trouble. These people, and a lot of people, are afraid of one world government. Oh, they're going to control us. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. I'm sorry. What do you think living under God is? I'm sorry. What do you think living under King David or whoever his descendant is up in Jerusalem running the world? What do you think it is? One world government is not anything to be afraid of. One world government is you placing the person there that needs to be there by having the connection with God. And if you do things out of fear, this is how Nazi Germany ran its thing. If you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to kill you. To the older people. To the young people, they end up turning in their parents if they heard their parents saying a bad word. But it was for their own fear that they did it. But they tricked them they brainwashed them into thinking it was because they loved, may his name be erased. Wrong kind of fear stops you from living. That's exactly right. So, the love of God has you doing things in the right way. You don't do things because if I don't do this, he's going to. I just brought to mind Shira. She went to a Catholic school the first 6 or 7 or 8 years of her life, maybe 9 years, and it was always the nuns with the whack, whack, whack. You did something wrong, whack. You said something wrong, whack. Fear of punishment. You don't do things. That's how you train animals, not human beings. When you're training a puppy dog and you want to housebreak it, sometimes you got to give it a little whack on the nose when it goes in the wrong place. You have to teach it where to go. How do you do it? Whack, whack. And you don't hurt it as much as some of the kids get hurt by people using a switch on them. Now, I'm not saying kids don't ever deserve a little switch here and there. But what I'm saying is, if the only reason they don't do things is because of fear of that, they're just like that puppy dog. And I mentioned earlier about the dog that walks with its owner, and you can tell how the owner treats the dog in the home. If the dog is prancing along and tail up in the air and looking happy and smiling, you know that dog is treated properly. But if you see a dog that cowers beside its owner and puts its tail between its legs, and when the owner calls it, it just kind of, in cowering, it comes up in front of the owner, that's fear of the owner. Well, God is not that kind of person. I'm going to say person. We know he doesn't have a corporeal existence. He just isn't that way. He wants us, to make a joke out of it, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He wants us happy. He wants us. Do you know that if you do something for God out of fear of punishment, he doesn't want you to do it? He does not want you to do it. He wants anything you do for him, he wants you to have a joy in you that you're doing it. That you're enjoying it, but you're doing it in, I-N, next word, J-O-Y, in joy. He doesn't want you cowering before him. He doesn't want you pleading for mercy in front of him. Oh, please, don't punish me. Oh, please, don't send me to hell. He wants you to be joyful. That's one of the purposes of life. Being joyful, helping other people, helping them be joyful. I don't know where I mentioned it in the last week or two, but years ago I went to Kenya, and I was in Nakuru at a conference, and we were in Nairobi for a while. And one of the people there said, "Hey, we want you to come down and talk to some people." And I said, "Fine." And where'd I end up? Right smack dab in the middle of a 15-acre garbage dump, where people had set up little ramshackle tin huts where they lived, with the refuse flowing down the middle, with a bridge over one part, and some of the people charging a toll for these poor people to go across the bridge, and not letting them pass unless they brought them a little food or a little something. Anyway, I went to talk to these people, and they said, don't go, that's the short way, but don't go that way because you're going to have to. I said, no, I'm not going to pay them anything. I'm going across the bridge. And that's exactly what I did. And a lot of people followed me because they wanted to see what was going to go on. And we went up to this we went inside of a tin hut. It is hot in Kenya. I mean, it's real hot. And here's a whole bunch of people sitting around to listen to me talk. All I felt like doing was crying. These people living on a garbage dump, and they were happy people. They were taking care of one another, except from a small few that were bullies. They were taking care of each other. I saw what they did for one another. I saw how they treated one another, and they were happy. They said, "God, why'd you do this to me?" No, they were happy in their connection with God. And it made me happy. Every time I look back on this thing, and I look back on this organization that used to feed over 1,000 children lunch every day, and what did they get? Rice, a little bit of rice, and maybe another vegetable mixed in. And it was a time when HIV was just rampant in Africa. And the guy that ran the organization said, if you come back 6 months from now, it'll be a different group of children. These kids are all going to be gone, passed away from HIV. When I left there, I tried to stay as joyful as I could. When I left, I wept. But I also, I thank God for sending me to that place. It gave me such more of an appreciation of who I am and where I live and the things I have. But I didn't question, why, God, are you doing this to these kids? Because he wasn't. It was human beings doing this to these kids. It was human beings that allow in the world today a child to die from malnutrition every 22 seconds. Think about it. Every 22 seconds. It's not God. It's me and you. Now, I don't mean me and you, but it's human beings. What happened in the USA just recently? They're dumping meat. They're slaughtering animals. They're burying carcasses. They're dumping milk. Why? To keep the price up. Because this happened right now It's happening right now in America. Throw the eggs away instead of let's put them on a ship and send them somewhere somebody can do some good for them. We're going to keep the prices up. What happened to God? Where's the fear of God here? The fear of God that you're not taking care of someone created in his image, not of punishment. Where's the fear of God? So it's important that we understand this. And every morning when we get out of bed and we reconnect with God and we thank him for that we're born again today, and we have the ability to reconnect with him, and he allows it, and he wants us to. And then we go about our day. Whatever we're doing during the day, we're going to dedicate to him. We're going to make whatever we touch during the day holy. We're going to raise it up to his level. Everything we do, everything we think, and everything we say, we're going to dedicate it to him. We're going to go with that attitude. And that, no, it's not any holier than thou attitude. It's that, God, because I love you with this love, not from being punished, but because I want to be close to you and I want to be closer and I don't want to be separated, I'm going to do this for you, someone created in your image today. I'm going to do this because this is what you want done, not what I want done. I'm going to keep my mouth shut when someone says something stupid to me or tries to insult me. And it's just, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to have an argument. And I'm going to understand this person is just that person being that person. This person, that's that. And when I do that, what have I done? I've humbled myself before God. I've said, yes, God, I understand. This is what you want me to do, not the other thing, and I'm going to do it. I am going to do what you want. That's when you are dedicating yourself and whatever you do to God. And the word holy in Hebrew means to dedicate to. That's the way it would translate in English. Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
Can I share, I've shared this with Scotty once before. Can I share an example that I've used when we're talking about, what you're talking about dedicating and making something holy?
Go right ahead.
Many of you may know what this is. This is a Kiddush cup for observing Shabbat and the holy days of Yom Tov. You don't drink Coke from this. You don't drink milk. This is set apart to bring in the Shabbat, the Yom Tovs. It's set apart for only kosher wine. Nothing else is to be put in this. So that's holy. That's what that means, holy. This is a regular cup. It's everyday use. Pour whatever you want in it. It's not separated. It's not made holy in its use. It's just for general purpose use. This is holy. This is separate. That's what we mean when he's talking about separating things and making it holy. And so this is something we need, Noahides need to work on. I know I do, is like he said, everything we touch every day, we, and make it, and it's, for purposes is making it, kadosh, to separate things, I mean, we got so much, we don't hear enough on working on ourselves, separating ourselves through our attitudes, our character traits. And we can do that. So many people say, oh, there's nothing to do as a Noahide. No, there's more to do than we could ever live 3 lifetimes and do. There's not enough separation in our lives as Noahides by learning, like I said, learning to work on our character traits, our attitudes. I know, when I get to work and something's going on, I'll fly off the handle and heartbeat, and I come back. I'm like, what did you just do, you you idiot? You acted like a fool in front of everybody because something didn't go the way you wanted it. So I know I have a lot of work to do. I haven't quite, learned how to separate myself in certain ways to make myself holy. But that's what Pesach's talking about, separating. This is used for nothing else but one purpose. This is general purpose. And that's the difference between holy and not holy. That's, to me, that's how I learned how to describe it.
That's really good example, Terry. That's good. I like visual things like that. I love it. But we also have to understand that as much as we want to be a very holy person, we need to be a whole person with a W. We have to be a whole person. That means we're going to make mistakes. We have to forgive ourselves, and we know that God's going to forgive us. How do we do this thing that Terry just talked about? Well, you start off your day reconnecting, realizing, okay, I'm here, I'm now, I'm in the now. What am I going to do today for God? And that's an important thing to understand. And as you go through your day, sometimes you slip. Sometimes you do something you shouldn't do, but you have to realize you did something you didn't do. Now, the separation that Terry just talked about is when God called Israel, and he said, I'm choosing you as a nation. We were the 71st nation, but we were separated from the other 70. We were set apart. God did this. He did it with us because he wants us to work with him and be with him so he can teach us how to work with other people. Then ideally it works. We come and we teach everybody else in the world, the other 99.8% of the world, how what God wants and how to live with him every day and separate yourself from the other 70 nations. Now today there's 250 or 60 nations, but when it all shakes out, there's only 70. They're just subgroups of other different nations that have been around for a while. Because God only created 70. He didn't create more than that. Man created the rest, just like man creates religions and man creates other things and man creates denominations. So man did this, not God. God only created 70 nations and one nation set apart. The people of the 70 nations have a choice. Do I become part of the set apart, or do I stay where I am? Do I continue to live in the anthill, or do I go join up with the one nation? It's your choice. It's nobody else's choice but yours. Nobody forces you to do anything. Nobody makes you make a choice. Now, I got to take that back. In the beginning of life, that happens sometimes. In the beginning of life, we are raised by our parents. And our parents set us on the same track they were on. You know, God said that if a person separates himself from him, that he will punish them to the 10th generation. Well, everybody thinks that means punishing the kids and stuff, and that's not what he means. What he means is, okay, you're teaching your son to do this thing, and if your son doesn't wake up and realize, your son or daughter, that it's wrong, well, they're going to have a problem too, and they're going to teach it to their kids, and it goes on and on and on. Somebody's got to break the chain. There are religions that call this thing a generational curse. Well, sure it is. But who put the curse on who? They're putting it on themselves by following these false teachings and false ideologies. I don't want to talk negative about anything. But if you don't connect yourself to the one true God, the creator of everything, you're on the wrong path. There's only one way to do it, and it's through Torah. There's no other way. As Cher told me today, the Torah is the red pill. Now, if you've seen The Matrix, well, you have to choose the red or the blue. Good night, Tony. If you have, most of the world today is on the blue pill. You're just part of this matrix that keeps on going and going. And you want to know how I know? You know too, because you saw it happen during the Corona thing. Part of the matrix got broken and the whole world economy's falling apart. It's all connected together. One can't stand independently of the other. Now there's a problem with other nations and what's going to go on with other nations. The interaction between nations. But just think of a nation as a person. They've got their egos, they've got their pride, they've got everything else. And all they think about is themselves. And by the way, when you think a nation's doing good and doing charity and doing everything else, they're doing it for totally the wrong idea. They do it because they want to look good in somebody else's eyes. Oh, look what I did. Look what we do. We don't do that. What they're doing over there. Look how good our country is. They're no more than a person in their thinking. God says there's only one nation, only one people. You're all my people. My nation is Israel. And you're all going to be citizens of Israel in the end, if you want. And he wants you to join his one world government. He wants you to know who the king is sitting on the throne in Jerusalem. And it's going to be from the seed of Jacob, from the seed of David. He's already told us that. It's an amazing story, an amazing story. It's the story of Ruth, and it just blows my mind every year when we read it. We read it in Shavuot. But wow, he's got it all set. He knows how to get it back where it needs to be. We're so stubborn, we dig our heels in and say, nah, it's got to go the way I think it's going to go. It's got to be done my way. It amazes me, there's so many places of worship in the world, and one can be right across the street or one next door to each other. And they say, well, we're the only true people. Everybody else is wrong. Do you know, I go out my front door and I don't have to go 50 feet, maybe 75. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places of worship. 6. But not 6 because they're denominated. 6 because the people from Yemen who speak Yemenite or whatever they speak like to get together and pray together, and they all pray in Hebrew. But after prayers, they sit around and they drink coffee and they eat together, and then you have the Moroccans, and then you have some other Sephardim. Then you have Ashkenazi that are from a certain area of Poland that like to get together. Then you have the Russians that like to stick together. Then you have the Chabadniks that like to pray together. But they're not different denominations because I can walk into any one of those places every morning and they're saying the same exact prayers in every place. Nobody's putting forth a different opinion of God. And nobody's trying to say, we're going to make God in our image here in this place of worship. I can walk in the door of any place of worship that is Jewish anywhere in the world. I can get off an airplane, take a cab to the closest place, no matter what language is spoken. When I walk in that front door and everybody's praying in Hebrew, we're all speaking the same language. We're all believing in the same God. And there's no denominating. We agree on all that stuff. Now, we might get in arguments about other stuff, but we don't get in arguments about that. united, one. And how do we do that? Every morning, we all say, Modeh Ani. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. So it's pretty cool what's going on. And I'm trying to read it, but I can't read and talk at the same time. Sorry. Anyway, it's good. And I see you're getting together with other Noahides, and that's good. But there's a problem within the Noahide community a little bit about some denominationalism. They haven't quite learned yet what it is to be united. So you're going to be part of this group, part of that group. You're going to think this way, you're going to think that way. Thank God that he's putting together a group of people, rabbis, learned people. They're all focused in the same way on the same thing that can teach other people. And not, when I say other people, I'm talking about focusing on part of the 99.8% of the world on how to dedicate themselves, be holy to God, and take this message to their own people. A lot of people resent hearing it from us. There's a lot of resentment of Jews in the world. Can't help that. This is the way God built the world. But if it's better for them to hear it from people who aren't Jewish, that's fine. But the people who aren't Jewish have to have the teaching and learning to understand how they're supposed to teach it. They can't put their opinions in. They can't change the word. They can't reinterpret the word. So there's some very strict rules. And, you know, just so you know, with us, we have two people who have been certified for that. That's Scotty and Terry. So if you want to teach any classes or talk to anybody, they have certificates of teaching from the World Academy in Jerusalem. And you want to connect with Noahides, you want to know who they are, it's easy enough to say, did you take the pledge? Juanita and two of her friends that are in a home group that I teach, Juanita Huffman, who's here with us today. Good to see you, Juanita. They took it this past week. I hope you got the email today with the with all your certificates in there. And good deal, good deal. So this makes you part of a group. It doesn't mean that you have to. Let me explain to you what this pledge is. When you're pledging to God, you're not pledging to anybody but God and yourself. It's between you and God. It's like a vow. You're pledging to each other. He's making a pledge to you and you're making a pledge to him. But what does it give you? Why do it? I don't need to do that. I know who I am. God knows who I am. Well, that's great. The time's coming. Excuse me. Hold on one second. I should have brought me some water. The time's coming, but it's for you or your kids or your grandkids, that the whole world is going to be raised up to the level of Israel. The whole world is going to be called Israel. And what Israel is today is going to be called Jerusalem. Everything's going to lift up a spiritual level. Now, it's good that God knows who you are. Of course he does. There's no doubts. You know who you are. But when you're going to join together with a whole group of people, they need to know who you are too. They have to see something that you have decided to show, yes, I'm part of the group. Not words, not mouth, because people give enough lip service to everything today. So when you take this pledge in front of the Bet Din, which I'm a part of, but I mean, it may not be there. It could be some other rabbi at that particular day. But you get a signed certificate. You can print out on very nice paper if you want. You can frame it, but it's your ID card. I carry an ID card that I'm a citizen of Israel. Matter of fact, I'm not supposed to leave the house without it. It's always in my, they used to make them bigger than credit card size. It was really tough. Now they're credit card size, so they fit right in the pocket. They don't believe my mouth. They want to see I'm a citizen. Here it is. Every citizen of Israel gets one when you become a citizen of Israel. They don't have to see passports, driver's license. They want to see, are you really Israel? Well, what you're doing, you're saying to the world, yes, I am really Israel. Yeah, I might live in America, and I'm an American, but I'm really, really a part of Israel. And the day will come, and I think I've told this story before, there are countries in the world that are not allowed, the people are not allowed to enter Israel. Why? Because we're not allowed to enter their countries. So if they end up landing at the airport somehow, they're told, okay, we're going to get your flight home. See you later. We don't want you here. One guy, it happened about 4 years ago, that's what happened. He says, whoa, wait a minute. You're not sending me anywhere. I'm allowed to be here. Like police, border guard says, what are you, crazy? Get out of here. We see your passport. We're sending you home. He says, no, wait a minute. And he pulls out one of these certificates signed by Rabbi Sherbow and 2 other guys. He says, do me a favor and call Rabbi Sherbow in Jerusalem. They did. Rabbi Sherbow told him the name. He looked it up in his database, I guess. He does everything on a computer to make sure he has it all listed. And he said to him, yeah, I'll take responsibility for him, let him in. And he just let him in, just like that, on Rabbi Sherkow's word. The day's going to come when all you're going to need is to show the certificate. You don't have to check anything. And what happens is when the borders open of Israel for you to be able to live here, when anybody can move here, no, not anybody's going to be able to move here. I don't know if it's going to happen in your lifetime or your kids or your grandkids, but when those borders open, you know, get 3 guesses who's going to be allowed to live here. You've heard a million times, Ger Toshav. What is a Ger Toshav? The alien that comes to live among us. And who are they going to let in? Who are they going to let in? Here's my ID. See, look at this. You don't have to take my word for it. Here. Signed. Rabbi Goldberg, Rabbi Sherbow, Rabbi Sherbow. Check their database. Here I am. You're making a public declaration before God of who you are. You're not doing it in secret. You're not saying to yourself, well, you know who I am and I know who I am. Nobody else has to know and I don't have to agree with anybody else. You still haven't made the trip yet then, if that's the way you think about things. You still haven't made the trip. Now, I'm not saying that we're the only ones that can do this. You know, there's a couple of places in Jerusalem, but anybody else that does it is fooling themselves. Anybody that lives anywhere else in the world that sets up their little Noahide centers and says, yeah, come be with us, they're just trying, they're denominating again. We have to be unified. When God says, okay, Israel, we all have to say yes. Whether we are Jewish born or whether we're born in other countries of the world and we believe in the one true God, the God of Israel. That's what he calls himself. Nobody replaced Israel. Those people only took on that title because Israel wasn't around for a couple of thousand years, but all of a sudden God said, okay, Israel, you're back. And the other people said, no, 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 we've replaced you. You can't come back. What a joke. That's all I got to say. And I'm not trying to be nasty to anybody. I'm just trying to say you got to think about it. Think logically. 2 and 2 is 4. Israel wasn't here for 2,000 years. So what? It's here now. And it was here for the 2,000 years. It just didn't have a piece of land to put its name on. So what? God did this. Man hasn't done this. God did this. I had somebody tell me the other day over the internet, he said, that why didn't he give you a piece of land in Africa? Why didn't he give you a piece of land? Why do you have to come here? And it was, are you kidding? You know, the best and widest read book in the world is probably sitting on your coffee table. If you don't have it in the house, wrong house. But if at least whether it's what they call the Old Testament or whether it's the Tanakh, they still have it. Still have it. Good question, Gloria. I'll answer that in just a sec. If they haven't read it as a history book and they don't understand it's a history book, and God created it as a history book so we can all see about creation, what he did with the land over here, what he's given to who and what. If you don't accept it as that, well, what do you even have it in your house for? It's not so you could replace Israel. There's no prophecy of anybody replacing Israel in that book. Look, guys, how do you say it today? People, we are one. We're sitting in this room right now. We're one unit together. We're one. When we go out of here, we're still one. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you're still one. But there's you and there's the group, which you're one with the group, and we're all one with God. And believe me, when I say this, and you think about it over the next couple of days, if you belong to any other group, you do not belong to the group that God wants you to be in. You've made a choice to go someplace else. You've made a choice to think about a different God with a small g. In your prayers, you get that you get that reinforcement in you every day. Believe me, we need it. The red pill, the pill of truth, is like any other pill. You need to take it, doses of it. You have your dose every day. Just so you take your other vitamin pills for energy and for whatever you need them for. If you don't take them, you don't get the effect of them. So the prayers are the first part of every day. And even if you don't feel like doing it, you just read it. The words going into your body are going to help you. You should do it with kavanah, with heavy intention, but you can't do it every day. We're just human. Not everybody can do it every day. I can't. I know. I'll admit it. But I know the days I can't. I know the days I can't. Now, I had a question. Anybody else have anything they want to say right now, or a question right now? Any more questions before I move on to something else? Dennis?
Yeah, one of the things that you brought up, and I was in ministry with Christianity, and I don't want to say I'm bitter, but after all those years of following what I learned to be corrupted in the translation, I don't even like using the word Bible anymore, because when I hear the word Bible, I just think corrupted. When I think of the Old Testament, it's not the Old Testament, it's the original Testament. And,
Yeah.
But as I'm getting involved with Noahidism, even Rabbi Kaufman, he even uses the word Bible. So is it okay? Or why are we using the word Bible when I feel like we should be saying Torah?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Why did Jews call Judaism a religion when we're not a religion? It's because what the world calls us. We're a way of life, God's way of life. So it's okay. You call it the Bible. I will not, if someone says it's the Old Testament, I say, oh no, there's nothing old about it. I always say that. But Bible is just a way of people, when you say Bible, people know what you're talking about. They don't know, if I say, we're going to read from the Tanakh today, they don't know what I'm talking about. And it's hard. I even have trouble with other rabbis here in Tzfat. I say, why do you always, when you speak, you call us a religion? We're not. Religion is man-made. What we have is a way of life. What we have is the truth. Well, but everybody calls it a religion. Okay, so even sages, they used the word religion in different languages throughout the years that they wrote, the Achronim, the Rishonim. Anyway, our what I call our wise guys, the guys that know the stuff that we learn from. So just let it go. And another thing you have to let go is any bitterness or bad feelings you have. Let me tell you why. You're not there anymore. But if you hadn't have been there, you wouldn't be where you are today. So where you were is actually a blessing to you because it brought it to where you are today. So when you look back on things, just say, wow, I'm sure glad I'm through with that, but it sure brought me to a good place. That's the way you have to think about it. It doesn't do any good to look backwards. When people start looking backwards, that means they're walking backwards and they're going to trip and fall because they get their eyes focused behind them. One of the hardest things for any of us to learn is living in the moment, right here, right now. Here's, what time is it on the clock where you are? About 27 minutes past the hour, wherever you are. That's the moment. That's the moment where I am, 4:27 in the morning on that 28th of May. That's what I'm living in. Now, in my life, in my 75 years, I've been through a whole lot of stuff. And I've believed a whole lot of stuff. And I was born Jewish. And my parents were Jewish, and their parents, and their parents, and their parents. But I did a whole lot of wandering around. We all do it. And I came back to the truth because someone said to me one day, you know, you're a fool. You threw away your treasure that you were born with. You just squandered it away. Someone said that to me. And that's the way it is. And I realized that's what I had done. But I don't feel bad that I had done it because I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't have made those mistakes. So always look at, because God does, by the way, when you're in a position, no matter how far down you are, David says that even if I'm down in the grave, you're with me. Wherever I am, you're with me. I just have to turn to you. So wherever you were, wherever you think you were, okay. When you got up, God's there with you, and he's happy you're there, and you're happy you're there, and you're alive, and he wants you to be joyful and not have any bitter feelings and not feel bad about anything. Anything. I like Angela puts in, yes, Torah. I left my Bible and followed Tanakh. No religion, way of life on a new road. And that's true. And you can, people you know, you can say that to, but you have to understand other people are used to the vernacular from where they come from. And they're going to say things that might offend your ears, but it's okay. They haven't learned yet. You were there once too, so have mercy on them, you know, and be joyful. God wants us to be joyful. Look, there's a story about, and I can't remember the rabbi's name. He was a wise, wise person, and everybody respected what he had to say. But every time there was a wedding, he would get up and he would take firebrands, and he'd act like a clown, and he'd throw these firebrands up in the air, and he'd sing and dance and get everybody laughing and everything, and then he'd, you know, go home. And his colleagues would come and say, why do you act like such a fool? You're such a wise man. Why are you being so foolish in what you do? He said, that's just because God wants us to be joyful in everything. And one of our things we're supposed to do is make a bride and groom joyful, a good night. Well, for years and years and years, they used to put him down. When he passed away, and they were taking him out to the cemetery to bury him, you know, they do it almost immediately. Doctor says, you're dead. Okay, put him in a sheet, undress him, put him in a sheet, and let's go put him in the ground. That's the way we work. And that's the way God wants us to work. And they talked about oh man, he was such a great guy, but he did such foolishness all the time. He acted like a fool so many times. They get out to the gravesite, they put him in the ground, they say the prayers, and all of a sudden, they're surrounded with angels juggling firebrands. God sent the angels to show everybody that it was a holy foolishness the guy was doing, but he was doing right. It was a holy foolishness. So there's two types of foolishness in life. There's a holy foolishness, and then, of course, there's the bad foolishness, or the foolishness from the other side. So what I'm saying is here, it's okay sometimes to act a comedian. It's okay sometimes to do what you need to do to bring joy to people. But the biggest thing you need to understand is wherever you were, God is so overjoyed that you're not there anymore that you don't even have to worry about it. We actually say to a fellow Jew when he starts putting his tefillin on in the morning, and he goes back to wearing the kippah and he starts eating kosher and all that. We say to him, God, the angels in heaven are celebrating right now, and God has forgotten where you were because he knows where you are. What you did in the past became a credit, not a blessing, but a credit to you. Not a black mark, but a good mark, because why? It brought you back where you're supposed to be. And the people coming in right now is bringing you to where you're supposed to be. Where you're supposed to be. I'd have to look. The fire juggling thing was just one of them, Angela. But I'll get some and I'll send it to you. There's all kinds of examples of it. I just don't have it offhand because this story just popped in my head as we were talking. Dennis, you used to be a leader.
I was in ministry for a long time, and then I ended up going to Bible college to just. But it was in Bible college that I hit the wall.
Okay.
Truth, and yeah, I upset a lot of people. They basically because I can't stop asking questions, and just because you don't know the answer doesn't mean that I'm going to stop asking.
Right. No, that's the big thing. We're allowed to ask all the questions we want. We may not get answers to all of them, but we can ask all we want. We're allowed to. We never get put down for asking. By the way, I don't know if you know Terry and Scotty. Terry and Scotty were both, and Angela. All three of them were in the same place you were, and they were for many, many years. So if you're not friends with them on Facebook, I suggest you make friends. And if you need to talk to them or anything, they'll be more than happy to help you out and help you through things. Terry will tell you what he's been through for the last 7 or 8 years or 9 years. And Scotty broke free, and Angela broke free. And they were leaders. So they can work with you if you wish. And they are certified teachers, by the way, from the World Noahide group and from Rabbi Goldberg and Rabbi Shirky's group up in Jerusalem. So you can get a lot of information from them. They can help you quite a bit. Where do you live?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Wow, cold place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been up there to Bemidji and International Falls, I think it's called.
Yeah, Bemidji, I think, is about 45 miles from me.
Yeah, and I've been to Twin Cities there.
Yep.
Yeah. I have a friend who was a deputy sheriff there for years and years and years. You want to say something, Terry? Go ahead.
Hey, Dennis, do you know where Orr is up near the Canadian border?
I'm aware of it.
On Pelican Lake.
Okay.
The church I grew up in, we had a summer camp there. I got to go up there twice. We'd go in canoeing into the boundary waters between Canada and the United States. So I've been up there twice. And so, yeah, beautiful area. Mosquitoes the size of hawks. Great, amazing area.
Exactly.
So anyway, you guys friend each other, and so you can get some help here and there. I know there's a lot of this friending thing on Facebook. I don't understand it. I got like 200 people waiting to be my friends. I have no idea why they're not, you know, they're not people that, they don't appear to be people that want to learn or something. They just, okay, I'm going to chalk this up as another one. But you have your group of special people that you can talk to and you can communicate with. And we're here every, let's see, it's Wednesday night, your time, what's that, 7 o'clock in Minnesota?
Yep.
And on Sunday nights, we do it at 10 o'clock Eastern time, which would be what, 8 o'clock your time, right?
9.
9. Okay. If you want to stop in, it's a different link, but it's because it's in my room. This room is, Terry runs this one. It also goes out through YouTube and Facebook for No Hide World Center. But then we have Tour for the Nations. That's who we are in America. And which you're more than welcome to join up with us and help out and get all the help. We're more than happy to help all you can. I know Scotty and Terry and Angela will just give you all the help you need. And one of the hardest things to do is set up a group in your area. We're going to try to help people with that. Tony, who left, set up one in Arizona. I think Angela's setting one up or has set one up where she is. And other people are starting to set up these Facebook groups in the areas they live in, because everybody's on Facebook today. But you can target the area you live in and try to get more people to connect with you. So, and if you need help with that, I'll be more than happy to help, because how have I gotten to know all you guys the same way? By joining groups and reaching out to people. So, okay. Anybody have anything else they want to ask or bring up right now? Go ahead, Scotty.
I got just a couple things, but
Go ahead.
can I give a personal thing first? Just a little personal.
Sure. Go ahead.
You know, I'm still connected with a lot of the people that I've met over the years. You know, 40 years in ministry, you don't get connected with people. And I want to tell this to Dennis. One of the things that I have learned, Terry can say this too, and I'm sure Angelica can too, is, you know, there's other people out there that's probably right down on your same street, maybe even next door. And the best way to witness to them is not to tell them what's wrong with what you left, but with what's right with where you are. And that really, and be, you know, that really sends a difference in it. So, Pesach, can you still hear me, or did you go get a drink of water? I bet he went to get a drink.
No. I'm
okay.
still sitting right here. I just am taking a break from in front of the camera for a minute, but go right ahead.
I got two things that come across on the station tonight that I think are some other stuff that come across, but you don't want to know those. But one is they thought it really fascinating about you talked about going into the synagogues or those things right outside your door, and they were all talking to Hashem the same way. No matter, even though they were different backgrounds and different nationalities, they all had one voice toward Hashem, and I'm kind of putting that in there. But in the churches here in the Western world, you can also go in. I can leave my house right here where I'm at, and I can see 7 or 8 different churches. But every one of them are trying to talk to their deity with a different voice. Can you discuss that real quick? And then I got one more question for you, but can you discuss that real quick?
Sure. See, we know there's only one creator of the universe. There's no debate. And our sages put together prayers, and a lot of them are just based on Psalms also, but prayers that we do every day, all of us around the world doing the same. You know, the sun rises 24 times around the world, right? In every time zone. Every time it rises, the Jewish community awakens and greets God with the same identical prayer. So he's hearing them for 24 hours. He hears the afternoon prayers for 24 hours. He hears the evening prayers for 24 hours. And he hears all the same prayers coming from every Jewish voice in the world. Now, some of us might pray this psalm first or this psalm second, but there's no difference in what we pray. And so when I walk, and we all pray in the same language, Hebrew. So when I walk into a place and I'm hearing the words they say, I don't even have to open a book. I can just start, because you do it so long, you have it memorized, but we're told don't do it by memory. Open that book, read the words, so your memory isn't working on remembering, it's working on intention, putting the intent into the things. But just think about it. The creator of the world is hearing the morning prayers once an hour, 24 hours, and then the afternoon prayers once an hour, 24 hours, and the evening prayers once an hour, 24 hours. And every time we have a holy day, the same day around the world, and it's identical. There's no difference. That's the unity of Israel. That's the unity of the Jewish people. That's the unity of God. One God, one set of prayers that were set up by our in quotes, I'd like to say wise guys, but all the generations of people that came before us. And everything is at the will of God. Everything is at his ratzon, his will. Good night, Gloria. Oh, good insight. I thought you said good night. See, my eyes are getting goofy. So just think about this. You want to be part of that oneness with God? Be part of that. And you guys do it with the Brit Olam prayer book. When you're saying it, you think you're saying it by yourself? Even if you're home by yourself, you're not. And that's why everybody is on the same page. Go ahead, Terry.
Another thing, and I'm speaking from, non-Jewish who, studied, for 6+ years for conversion. No matter what synagogue you go in on this planet, no matter what country you go into that synagogue, no matter where you're at, and they hold that Torah scroll up and says, "This is the Torah of Moshe that was given to us," and every Torah scroll is identical. It's identical. It's not NIV, KJV, ASB, CDEF. It's one Torah scroll from Moses from 3,400 years ago.
That's exactly right.
And no one can claim that. No religion can claim to have the word that came from God to Moses. And it's been that way for 3,400 years, and they hold it up every Shabbat. No one can claim that but the Jewish people.
I got to tell you something. You just reminded me of something that just blew my mind. We have a museum called the Shrine of the Book. Okay.
Been there.
Yeah. When you walk in there, the lights are kind of dim because they have parchment that was written thousands and thousands of years ago. And they have it stretched out in a glass environment, but you can walk up and you can see the letters. And there are parts of Isaiah there that are very clear. And it blew my mind. I walked up to it and I started reading it. Now, this is stuff that was written 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, same language. And it's worded exactly like it is today. No difference. Today, Sharon and I visited the burial place of Rachel, the wife of Rabbi Akiva. If you've never read about her, read about her. She's an amazing woman. Inside her, the place where she's buried, in the hall there, they had, and it's just, I'm looking at this Torah scroll. It's so old, and I'm reading from it. They have it in glass, and it's opened up. I look up at the sign. And it was a gift somebody gave to that her tomb 350 years ago. And there's another one on the other side that was given 250 years ago. I look at them, they're opened up. I read them, they're identical. There's no difference. They're identical. And that's what Terry was just talking about. So I already forgot. I just want to get back to Scotty because we're starting to run out of time, and he's got another question there. Go ahead.
This is a great book on Rachel, and Rachel was his wife, or wife.
Yeah,
I mean,
wife.
that's this is like a historical novel. Everything that they've known about her, they wrote it in a novel form, and the same way, Akiva. The story of Rabbi Akiva in his lifetimes. These two books are amazing. They're on my library, and I really, like he said, if you want to know about Rachel, right there's a good book to learn about her.
Yeah, a matter of fact, I'll post the pictures up from there. Shara went in on the woman's side. She read Psalms. I went on the man's side, and I did some prayers and took some pictures. And I meant to put them up yesterday, my time, and I just forgot. When I got home, we got busy doing other things. I forgot to put the pictures up, but I'll put them up on the Facebook page tomorrow. But Scotty, you said you had another question.
Yeah, one more real quick. And Terry, if you could post those books on Torah for the Nations Facebook page, maybe some people would be interested in tracking those down. Just one more real quick. We were talking earlier to a couple that had somebody, people in their family they were trying to witness to. And I kind of added to this question. So this is, I'm trying to relay it from me. The best way to witness to somebody, they said they talk to them, doesn't do any good. But I kind of put this down. The best way to witness, is it words of mouth or actions of life?
Yeah.
That's my question. Is it words of mouth or actions of life? Best way.
Well, okay, I'm going to give you an answer. It's both, but not what you think. Your mouth has to match your actions of life. That's what it is. You don't tell somebody, I know the truth, I got it better, you got to start believing this or believing that. You know what they have to, I'm going to tell you that the greatest witness you can do for especially your family is the change you make in yourself. They will feel it. They will see it. You'll be in a better mood. You won't be putting people down. You won't look at them with a frown. You won't criticize them. You're just going to accept them for who they are as who they are. And you are going to become a more, quote, loving person with them. You don't have to criticize. You don't have to put them down. You don't have to tell them they're doing anything wrong. Just enjoy your life and help them enjoy theirs. They're going to feel the change in you. I know people that have done this, and their children come to them, and their wives and husbands come to them and say, whoa, what got into you? Boy, what a change you've made. Parents coming to their kids and saying that. What changed you? What changed you? And that's when you get a chance. See, I have always had, and Juanita will tell you, because I've been teaching her for a long time, I never answer a question that isn't asked. Never, ever. Because you may want to tell somebody something, but if they haven't asked the question to get that information, they have no idea what you're going to say. And when you say it, they won't understand it. And they're just going to reject it. So the way to change people is by action. Action and deed in the proper manner. But and they got to feel it from you. They got to feel it from your God part of you's talking to the God part of them. Not the animal parts barking at each other, but the God part lovingly talking to the God part, and that's the way it's got to be. And they'll even feel it when they walk into your home. That's why Shalom Bayit, peace in the house, is one of the most greatest things you can possibly do, because people feel it when they walk into your home. They feel if there's peace in the house or not. So don't think that, I know a lot of people want to, in quotes, evangelize. and pass out tracts and do all those other things. Well, that's fine for religion. And people have become so immune to that. What happens if somebody tries to pass you out a tract on the street today? You might take it from just because you don't want to be nasty to them, but then the next trash can you go by, it goes in it. What happens when the Jehovah's Witness knock on your door? You don't want to hear from them.
Offer them a beer, they don't come back. That's what my dad did, by the way. Not, I've never done that, but my dad did do it one time.
Anyway, you just got to walk the walk. And that's all God wants from you. He doesn't want you, he doesn't care if you try to go out and convince people he's right. He's right anyway, and he knows it. And so you don't have to convince somebody else God is right, except by your actions, what you do, how you treat people, how you talk to people, how you communicate with people. I mean, it's not easy, but you got to do it. You got to do it. Remember, joy, J-O-Y, all the time, joy. Smile. Even if somebody slaps you in the face with their words, okay, they're entitled. God lets that person slap him around. God lets that person worship an idol. Our God lets that person worship 3 in 1. Okay, so God does that. So who am I to say that person can't if God allows it? Just like you woke up one day, they have to wake up. And that's the way it's got to be. Somebody says, oh, you got a stupid looking nose. Okay, you're entitled to your opinion. So what? Did it affect your life in any way? No. So why let it control your life in any way just because they said something? Who cares? Now, if you're husband and wife, you got to work things out. but when somebody, I don't care if it's a brother or a sister, even your parents try to put you down. It took me a lot of years to learn this. You have to accept what they're saying because that's what they're seeing. And that's what they think. And if they want to constantly look at you with a critical eye, which most of us are taught to do from the day we start making decisions, look at everything around you and criticize it. You got to make it better. They never say, look at you and make yourself better. And that's what God says. You want to make the world a better place, God says, fix yourself. You can't fix the world, but fix you, because if you fixing you helps you, it's going to help somebody else too when they see it. It's a constant rebirth, a constant growth. And that's all it's about.